Good morning children, welcome to AIMS India's online classes. This is biology session. You are watching Heredity from Parent to Progeny part 7. So children, we are trying to understand the concept of evolution. So this in order to understand the concept of evolution, there were many theories were put forward to explain the origin of life. According to the theory of special creation, it was believed that some special power created life. According to the theory of spontaneous generation, that is called abiogenesis theory, the life originated from non-living things in a spontaneous manner. That is the concept. Later, the modern hypothesis of origin of life was formulated by Haeckel, which was elaborated in the chemical theory in 1920s by Oparin and Haldane. Oparin and Haldane states that spontaneous generation of life under the present environment conditions is not possible. And what they said, Earth's surface and the atmosphere during the first billion years of its existence were radically different from today's conditions. Okay, later chemical evolution was explained by, in 1953, Stanley Miller, okay, an American scientist. He created primitive earth-like conditions in a laboratory and he passed the electric discharges in a closed flask containing some gases, methane, hydrogen, ammonia and water vapor. At 800 degrees centigrade, he observed the formation of amino acids. In similar experiments, formation of sugars, nitrogen bases, pigments and fats were observed. Okay. The synthesis of carbohydrates, fats and amino acids and other complex organic substances probably occurred in sea, ocean, which had been described by Haldane as the hot dilute soup. The formation of protein molecules is considered a landmark in the origin of life. Okay. What is the structure and functional unit of all living organisms? Cell. What is the structure and functional unit of cell? Proteins. Okay. Then the biological evolution. If you take the prokaryotes gradually modified, adapt themselves according to the new conditions. They developed a true nucleus and other specialized cell organelles. Thus, free-living eukaryotic cell-like organisms originated in the ancient ocean. Okay. Presumably about 1.5 billion years ago, the primitive eukaryotes led to the evolution of protista, fungi, plants and animals. The life was present on the earth about 3.9 billion years ago. 3.9 billion years ago. Okay. So let us study the theories of evolution in the today's session. Are you ready children? Let us proceed. Lamarckism. Lamarck's theory. The Lamarck's theory of evolution was published in his famous book Philosophie zoologique in the year 1809. Okay. So in the olden days, the people believed that all the organisms on the earth had not undergone any change. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck was the first person to propose the theory of evolution. He thought that at some point of time in the history of size of giraffe was equal to that of deer, that is called antelope. Due to shortage of food materials on the ground and to reach the lower branches of the tree, giraffe started stretching its neck. Because of continuous stretching of neck, after several generations, giraffes develop long necks. Such characters that are developed during the lifetime of an organism are called acquired characters. Okay? This theory, the Lamarck's theory, is popularly known as the inheritance of acquired characters in organisms. The inheritance of acquired characters in organisms. It can be defined as the changes in structure or function of any organ acquired during the lifetime of an individual in response to the changes in the surrounding environment, which are inherited by its offsprings and keep on adding up over a period of time. This is the total explanation of inheritance of acquired characters. It comprises of mainly 4 propositions or assumptions by Lamarck. So, let us know more about Lamarckism. The Lamarck proposed that these acquired characters are passed on to its offsprings, that is to the next generation, and proposed the theory of inheritance of acquired characters. Okay? Inheritance of acquired characters in organisms, this is the theory of Lamarck. For example, elongation of neck and forelimbs in giraffe. Okay, see. So, giraffe previously it was this much size only, but due to the non-availability of the food during drought conditions, it started extending its neck to reach the leaves and the branches of the trees. Okay. So, but so according to him, the 4 assumptions, what are they means? Internal vital force means the living organisms and their parts tend to increase in size continuously due to internal forces of life. That is one assumption. The second assumption is the effect of environment and the new needs. A change in the environment brings about the changes in organisms. It gives rise to new needs. Okay. New needs or desire produce new structures and change habits of an organism. The third assumption, use and disuse of organs. He proposed use and disuse theory. Okay. According to that, if an organ is used continuously and constantly, it will tend to become highly developed, whereas disuse result in its disintegration. Okay. So, if a person is using the muscles more and more, going for the gym and working on it, he develops the heavy muscles, body building. Okay. And the fourth assumption, inheritance of acquired characters. The modifications which are acquired during the lifetime of an individual are inherited by its offspring. Okay. It means the changes are cumulative over a period of time, cumulative over a period of time. So, but some critics were there. The August Weismann, he tested this theory by an experiment on the rats. Okay. Which theory? Lamarckism, inheritance of acquired characters. So, he removed the tails of parental rats. He observed that their offsprings are normal with tails. For several generations, he repeatedly used to remove the parental tails. The progeny which are produced by crossing them, they are with normal tail. Okay. So, he has done it again and again for 22 generations, but still offsprings are normal with tails. Okay. He proved that the bodily changes are not inherited, so they will not be passed to its offsprings. So, you can compare this. For example, our in the Indian tradition, earrings will be worn by the girl child. So, the parents are wearing, grandparents are wearing, making holes and wearing the. So, a child may not born with holes in the ear, okay, because that is only the physical, the bodily changes, isn't it? Okay. So, next theory, Darwin's theory of natural selection. Okay. So, the Darwin, the great evolutionist, Darwinism, Charles Darwin proposed a natural selection, the famous theory of evolution. Charles Darwin, the period 1809 to 1882, was born in England, and he voyaged for 5 years, wandered, journey he has done. Just when he was 22 years old, for 5 years, 600 miles away from the west coast of South America. Okay. During his voyage by HMS Beagle, that ship, okay, Darwin sailed to the Galapagos Islands, about 600 miles away from the west coast of South America, and he observed that the common birds of Galapagos Islands, the finches, okay, in the World Survey ship, that is HMS Beagle, he visited a number of places including the Galapagos Islands. He keenly observed the flora and fauna. Flora means plants, fauna means animals of these places, and he gathered a lot of information and evidences. Darwin observed a small group of related birds which are exhibiting diversity in structure in the Galapagos Islands. These birds are finch birds. So, you can observe this figure. So, this is the large ground finch bird. You observe the beak. The cactus ground finch. So, here the vegetarian finch bird. The next the woodpecker finch. How gradually the changes seen. Okay. So, he was markedly different from the finches of mainland, and fossils of Galapagos Island are more similar to the living species of South America. And here Darwin found a living laboratory of evolution. The theory of natural selection was announced on June 30, 1858 by the English naturalist Charles Darwin, okay, and Alfred Russel Wallace in the paper Origin of Species by means of natural selection. They introduced a paper, research paper, Origin of Species by means of natural selection. This theory is based on several prepositions. Okay. So, he was influenced by the book. What is that book? Principles of Geology. It was written by Sir Charles Lyell, and he suggested that the geological changes occurred in a uniform rate. The Darwin did not agree to this idea, and he felt that the large changes occurred due to the accumulation of small changes. So, Darwin was also influenced by the famous theory proposed by the Malthus theory on population. So, this was written in an essay of the principles of population. Okay, according to Malthus, the population grows in geometrical progression. Geometrical progression, that is 1, 2, 4, 8. But whereas the food sources increases in arithmetic progression, the requirement of the food, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Means population is more compared to the food production. So, based on these ideas, Darwin proposed the theory of natural selection, which means that nature only selects or decides which organism should survive or which organism perish in nature. Nature itself decides. There is no other. This is the meaning of the survival of the fittest. The organisms which with the useful traits, useful characters will survive. If the traits are not useful to organisms, then they are going to be perished or eliminated from its environment. This is the theory of natural selection. So, there are 5 propositions in the Darwin's theory of natural selection. Let us briefly reveal. First one, overproduction or enormous fertility. The living beings have an innate ability of producing their own progeny for the continuity of race. The second one, struggle for existence. This is the another concept introduced by Darwin. The Darwin was influenced by this Malthus. Okay, this example which is given, the scientist who introduced the theory of the principles of population, an essay on the, so it was influenced. The Darwin therefore proposed there is an intense competition and struggle to ensure living and to obtain maximum amount of food and suitable land. Okay. The third proposition is variations in heredity. The everlasting competition among the organisms has compelled them to change according to the conditions so that they can utilize the natural resources and can survive successfully. Such differences are known as variations. Certain variations appeared in the parent generation continue to appear in the progeny generation. These variations, known as heritable variations, form the raw materials for evolution. Heritable variations form the raw materials for evolution. The fourth one, the survival of the fittest or natural selection. This is very important concept. During the struggle for existence, only those individuals could survive which exhibit such variations that are proved to be more beneficial in facing the hardships and rigors of environment, or which change to adapt themselves to the changing environment. It has been called natural selection by Darwin and the survival of the fittest by Herbert Spencer, who strongly support the Darwin. Okay. So Alfred Russel Wallace also independently concluded that natural selection contribute to origin of species. Okay. For example, we have seen in the case of red beetles, which were seen and eaten by crows. So the population of the red beetles gradually got eliminated or perished from its environment. But at the same time, the beetles which are green in color, which are present on the green leaves, were not noticed by the crows. So gradually their population increased. Okay. So this is nothing but natural selection. Okay. So the variations which are useful to an individual are retained, while those which are not useful are lost. In a population, when there is a struggle for existence, it leads to the survival of the fittest. The fittest will be survived. Nature favors only useful variations. Each species tend to produce large number of species. They compete with each other for food, space, reproduction or mating, and other needs. In this struggle for existence, only the fittest can survive. This is called survival of the fittest. Over a long period of time, this leads to the formation of new species. Survival of the fittest leads to the evolution or the formation of new species. You may observe in your surroundings some seedlings and some of the animal kids only survive. Discuss in your class based on those examples to understand the survival of the fittest. Okay. So Darwin's theory of evolution in a nutshell. Any group of population of an organism develops variations, and all members of group are not identical. The variations are passed from parents to offsprings through heredity. The third one, the natural selection over abundance of offspring leads to a constant struggle for their survival in any population. The fourth one, the individuals with variations that help them to survive and reproduce tend to live together and have more offsprings than the organisms with less useful features. See, slowly you can go through these points. You can understand survival of the fittest, struggle for existence. Okay? The nature itself will select the organisms, which organisms to survive in the nature. Okay. So, you apply this formula to your surroundings. Okay, you might have seen the street dogs, they are fighting each other for their mates, for the food. The stronger one will survive, the weaker one will die. Okay. In the population of plants also, the plant which can resist the drought and famine conditions, it will survive even in the drought and famine. The remaining plants which are not strong enough, they die. Okay. The offsprings of survivors inherit the useful variations, and the same process happens with every new generation until the variation becomes a common feature. Number 6, as the environment changes, the organisms within the environment adopt the changes to the new living conditions, that is called adaptations. Okay. It may take some time, but finally develop some new features, some new characters to fit that particular environmental change. Okay. That is called survival of the fittest. Okay. Next, number 7, Darwin's natural selection. Over a long period of time, each species of organism can accumulate so many changes that it becomes a new species, similar to but distinctly different from the original species. All species on the earth arise in this way, means the evolution of species, the new species is formed due to continuous adaptations, continuous changes which are passed from one generation to other generation. Okay. So, nature itself decide. The evolution is a slow and continuous process. Yes, there are some limitations and objections to even Darwin's theory. Many new theories like synthetic theory, mutation theory are put forward. Okay. So, the identical thoughts of Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace. So, when Charles Darwin was formulating the theory of evolution in his mind, he received a letter with an article sent by Alfred Russel Wallace about his studies in the Indonesian island. The article was about natural selection. Darwin was surprised about the same theory in his mind. Later in the same year, Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace jointly published an article in the Journal of Linnean Society about the natural selection. It was only after this Darwin published his famous book, The Origin of Species, in 1859. However, their thoughts gained criticism at that time because they did not explain how variations are inherited. So, after the discovery of mitosis and meiosis, it was understood properly. Okay, he was the Alfred Russel Wallace. Okay, similar ideas as that of Darwin. Okay, the Darwin 1809 to 1882, Alfred Russel Wallace 1823 to 1913. Okay, they published the paper Origin of Species by means of natural selection. This theory is based on these principles which we have studied. Okay. Hope you followed, children. Read the textbook. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe our channel and press the bell icon for receiving latest updates.